Imagine your income shuts off completely today, right now. If you permanently stop working, exactly how many days can you survive on what you have sitting in your bank account? For most people, the answer is measured in weeks, maybe days. This flowchart maps what happens to our resources. We trade time for labor, generate a paycheck, and immediately drain it to cover bills. By month's end, the tank is empty, forcing the loop to restart. It's a rigid, mechanical cycle. The fact that a single missed paycheck can trigger a financial crisis isn't due to a lack of effort. It happens because almost everything we are taught about money from childhood is designed to keep us running on that exact wheel. Look at this street in 1950s Hawaii. In 1957, a 9-year-old boy living here realized he was quietly being excluded from his wealthy classmates' vacations. For the first time, he recognized a sharp financial divide between himself and his peers. He asked his highly educated father how to become wealthy. Despite holding a PhD and a stable government job, he was constantly stressed about money. Every time his income went up, his expenses matched it, trapping him in a permanent cycle of debt. This engine diagram shows the hidden psychology driving that debt. The fear of poverty acts as fuel, pushing a person to labor. But when a paycheck arrives, the desire for status kicks in, acting as an exhaust valve that dumps new income directly into expenses. A high IQ or an advanced degree offers no protection against this trap. If a person's financial habits are dictated by fear and immediate gratification, no amount of salary can generate actual wealth. The boy eventually turned to his friend's father for advice. This man was an 8th grade dropout, but he refused to offer classroom lectures. Instead, he hired the boys to dust shelves in his small supermarket for a brutal 10 cents an hour. 3 weeks of breathing in street dust for pennies left the boy completely exhausted. He was ready to storm in, complain about being exploited, and quit. That frustration was exactly what the older man was waiting for. Instead of firing him, he offered a test, $5 an hour. In 1957, that was an astronomical sum for a child, enough to trigger a massive spike of greed for new bicycles and toys. A moment of wonder. But the boys stayed silent. They fought off the urge for the immediate payout and agreed to continue working for absolutely nothing. By refusing the money, they broke their emotional dependency on a salary. When you remove the desperate hunger for a short-term paycheck, your brain stops obsessing over the next bill. It gets quiet enough to notice the systemic opportunities hiding in plain sight, the ones the rest of the working world completely ignores. Working for free forced them to look around the store differently. They noticed discarded comic books and used them to open a reading library for other kids. They charged admission and created a system that generated cash even while they were somewhere else. This diagram illustrates the singular mathematical rule behind that library. An asset has a positive vector. It puts money into your pocket, regardless of whether you are working. A liability has a negative vector. It pulls money out. Now look at what happens when we drop a primary residence into this equation. People assume a house is their greatest asset, but mathematically it sits directly in the liability column. Mortgages, property taxes, and maintenance form multiple negative vectors that constantly bleed cash away from the owner. Look closely at this photo of McDonald's founder Ray Kroc. He built his empire by using the high-volume sale of hamburgers to fund the acquisition of the land beneath the restaurants. Today, McDonald's operates as one of the world's largest real estate owners, with food sales acting as the consistent cash flow that maintains the property portfolio. The defining trait of the wealthy is that they refuse to trade their finite hours for a flat rate. Instead, they spend their time acquiring and building assets that mathematically force capital to work for them. If your entire strategy relies on pushing for a higher salary, you automatically become the primary target for the system's most efficient wealth extraction tool, direct income tax. This diagram shows how the wealthy bypass that drain. They use a legal document known as a corporation. It acts as a shield, routing the income safely around direct taxation, allowing them to reinvest before the government takes a cut. These protections are public record, yet the rat race persists because of four internal frictions. Fear of loss keeps people in safe, low-yield jobs. Cynicism dismisses these strategies as too good to be true. Laziness prevents the study of the rules. And bad financial habits keep the focus on immediate spending rather than long-term acquisition. That 9-year-old boy grew up to be Robert Kiyosaki. By training his eye to spot assets where others saw risk, he was eventually able to structure complex real estate deals, like buying and selling a house for a $40,000 gain using the bank's capital rather than his own savings. Escaping the loop starts with a tiny linguistic shift. Whenever you face a price tag and say, "I can't afford it," your brain shuts down. It accepts defeat and stops burning calories to find a solution. But when you ask, "How can I afford it?" you forcefully boot up your brain's creative problem-solving functions. It triggers an active search for leverage and assets, mirroring the way the boys found profit in discarded comic books. We return to the ticking clock. Time is the only resource you cannot earn back. Every morning you make a choice. Continue selling your finite hours to build someone else's empire, or break the cycle, change your financial operating system, and finally start building your own.